Italian Contemporary History, and it's a course that, well, it's about society and politics in Italy from 1796 to today, but in truth, and this is because Italian unification has been the process, the way the nation state was formed is very important to understand Italian identity, Italian national identity, Italian literature, Italian contemporary culture. And so it is important to also to talk about that period. But I think the peculiar thing about this course is that it revolves around movies. So we are going to watch 6 movies, and each movie will be the starting point for discussing themes, specific periods of Italian history, and specific, more like longue durée themes that characterize Italy in a long perspective. Why movies? Why movies? Because I think that movies can be very useful for historical discourse. They can be a source for cultural history because they represent the thought, the way a director tried to interpret certain events. So it tells us something about the time in which the movie was made, but it also tells us something about the time that is represented in the movie, because movies are like texts of which contain historical interpretation. So there is a third way in which the movie can be interesting, is also the way the movie was received and how it has been reread in the following time. So the movie can really be an excellent starting point for historical discourse, but also movies are also interesting because they allow us to react immediately. It is much more productive in a situation where where many don't know anything about Italy, to have a reaction and discuss and say something and make a comment. Much more than a text, because a text needs some mediation before you make a comment. While on a movie you are like inside a situation. And this is also what I liked about using movies in trying to discuss history, is that movies tell us about stories about individuals. So you get into the life of the Italians during the fascist period. But you discuss mother and son relation during fascism because you have an individual life, and you do not study more like general system and general history. So in this sense, the movies applied to history allows us to talk about macro and micro, to talk about the family, the individuals, and also the big things. And this is very useful because what I want to focus on is on the relationship between politics and society, between the state and society in Italy. And it's a very interesting topic because in Italy, we still are discussing whether there should be a united state of Italy, and so on. And we have also lived through a period in which the state became a sort of divinity, like during fascism. Well, which are the movies that we are going to watch? Is Il Gattopardo by Luchino Visconti, Amarcord by Federico Fellini, La Notte di San Lorenzo by the brothers Taviani. Il Gattopardo allows us to talk about the process of unification, the 19th century in Italy, the birth of the Italian nation. Amarcord and La Notte di San Lorenzo are about fascism and Second World War. Il Gattopardo introduces us to the theme of the differences between North and South, and the birth of the mafia, and so on. And Amarcord and La Notte di San Lorenzo allow us to talk about what is fascism as a political system, what is totalitarianism, whether fascism was totalitarianism, and so on. Then another movie we're going to watch is Don Camillo by Julien Duvivier, Mimì Metallurgico by Lina Wertmüller, and Il Caimano by Nanni Moretti. Okay, Don Camillo is about the Cold War, so it allows us to talk about like the church, because it's the relationship between a priest and a communist mayor in the 1950s. So we're going to talk about the relationship between the Communist Party and the communist world and with the Catholic world. And this will allow us also to introduce about what does it mean for a country to be Catholic, what does it mean for Italy to be Catholic. So among other things, we shall also analyze the peculiarity of the relationship between mother and son in Italy, and the role of the family, and so on, and related to politics also. What is this bigger role of mother? How does it affect the way Italians interpret democracy and citizenship? Does this attachment to the family produce us responsible citizens or not? No? And has this got to do with Catholicism or not? Then we're going to, Mimì Metallurgico is again about North-South, but it's also about the 1970s and the workers, migration, and we're going to talk a bit about that, and about also the movements in the 70s that have been quite important in Italy. And then we're going to see Il Caimano, which is about Berlusconi and about present-time Italy, and this will lead us to discuss, for example, about the relationship between judges and politicians, and the contemporary crisis of the Italian state. Every movie is going to involve us for 2 weeks. So we have 6 units. The course is divided in 6 units. Each one revolves around the movie. On Monday afternoon, I'm going to give you an introduction to the context of the movie, historical period. And then we're going to watch the movie in the evening. It's out of class. And then the following Wednesday, we're going to discuss that movie. And the week after, we are going to discuss a reading, and then to develop some of the themes of the movie, and then on Wednesday there will be presentations by the students. So this is the first course, Italian Contemporary History. History of Venice, from the origins to the present. Well, it is rather obvious why we teach, why we have decided to offer this course, is to provide you with basic knowledge about the place where you are going to stay. But in this course, I attempt also to present a case study, a useful case study, to see in particular how in history, in different periods of history, the relationship between environment, society, politics, and urban morphology have developed. So, about half of the course is going to see how these 4 elements have interrelated in ancient Venice, so before the end of the independence of the city, because this is a city which produced very early a sort of state, a city-state, its own state, and this has been very important and has allowed to develop specific relations between these elements. And the second half of the movie will be about the history of Venice since 1797, so since the end of the Republic. So we are going to deal also a lot about contemporary problems, about contemporary themes. Some of the themes which we are going to talk about are, for example, what is the lagoon? What is the lagoon? The lagoon is not the ocean, is not the sea, is not a lake, it's something else. So we're going to see, and I shall really try to explain you how the lagoon it's not an artificial environment, but not a natural environment, but it was the outcome of a very strong interaction between humans and the landscape. So much that we can talk about the invention of the lagoon as a stable environment, because in nature the lagoon wouldn't be stable. And we shall try to understand why this happened. One of my arguments will be that the lagoon and the lagoon management the lagoon was useful for economics, as an economic resource. So we are not talking about, like today, environmentalism or today preservation. It's something different. It was really functional to an economy, and it was also very much functional to a political system. And this is going to see, Venice develops around environmental management a sense of a civic sense and a participation to safeguard the lagoon from modifications, from transformation due to sanding or to the invasion of the sea waters. So we're going to see how the first settler and why the first settler settled in such an irrational place to build a stone city into, and why they decided to preserve it, to preserve the shape of the city and to preserve the environment. And we're going to see how much this was possible for a series of extraordinary circumstances, including the military power which Venice managed, and the special relation with the Byzantine Empire which Venice developed throughout the centuries. For what is concerned with contemporary Venice, one of the themes which we shall cover is the theme of industrialization. So what I shall try to prove is that Venice in the 19th century was not only a tourist city, but an industrial city. And if we do not understand this, we will never understand why we have out of the window there that huge petrochemical settlement, and which is one of the largest industrial ports in Italy. So we're going to see how this has developed and how this was possible, and how this has become the result of an alliance between the local church, local big capitalists who had invested in the Balkans and who later on financed the fascist movement in Venice. And in fact, we see a new design of the city, a new order emerge out of this choice of creating such a big industrial settlement in Marghera, which brought about also new images about the city related to imperialism, to the desire of expansion in the Adriatic. We are going to see also what happens after Second World War, after the end of fascism, because there is a big attempt to plan, to introduce forms of planning into the city. There is an attempt to change the concept of transformation, of what does it mean, what meaning can development have in a city like Venice. And then we're going to see the abandonment of this idea of government into the city, with looking at the sort of development plan by private companies, now which is taking place in different areas. At the Lido, for example, there is a big controversy at the Lido, and we are going to, of course, see the whole debate about the mobile dams, which is in the city we still have environment is still, safeguard of the environment is still very much a concern, but we're going to see how whether this and how this has been different from the past. For the History of Venice course, we have some visits around the ghetto to the to the Ducal Palace, which are very much part of the course, and to the Mose, to the port, and to a small museum about the the sea walls which were built under the Republic to protect the lagoon from the invasion of the sea. Also here we shall have presentations and in this course we shall have presentations and a final paper. This is it.